Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Mike.
and welcome back to Tax Day, No Limits, Scot Harvath Podcast. Happy early birthday to you, my friend. We are recording on your birthday eve. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir. We shall celebrate when we golf in another week or two when we meet up.
Yes, yes.
We'll have to celebrate for yours as well around then. A
Yeah,
lot of April birthdays.
shout out to a friend of the pod, Tom Cavazos. Happy 36th birthday to him.
Yes,
If he's
sir.
listening, let's see if he listens to this one.
Tommy Gunn. I don't know about that. Has he read a book since 2011?
Yeah, probably not even then.
Probably not. I'm thinking in college he may have, but yeah, you're right. That's probably not true.
He's probably read at least one book.
Yeah.
Art of the Deal. There we go.
Oh, there we go. That's it. Ayn Rand, maybe. Actually, quite probably. Atlas Shrugged. Dude, well, I know what I would recommend to him and any one of our friends, and that is the Scot Harvath series.
Yes. We kind of like riffed. The last pod that we put up was this.
Great pod.
We had sat down. We're gonna do this superlative thing, and we you had kind of made the suggestion like, let's just run through the books real quick. And we were just gonna do it off mic, like just to refresh our minds. Sorry, I'm a little bit stuffy today, but we're like, well, there's no such thing as free content, so let's just go ahead and get it out there. And I think it was a nice pod. I think it gives everyone a little bit of refresh, a little bit of recap. I know that I greatly, my rankings today are going to be better fulfilled because of it. So
Sure.
I'm excited to hash some of these out.
Dude, that was a lot of fun. Just running through the books, doing a recap. We had planned to stuff that into one finale episode, and it would have been like a 5-10 minute segment maybe, but we would have missed so much. And just spending an hour or whatever it was regaling all these different memories of these books, characters, plot lines that got lost, that receded to the back of my memory, and bringing them forward and talking about them. It was like the whole Scot Harvath pod fast forwarded, all condensed into one. It was just great to relive it. And today we get to put the cherry on top of that with our superlatives, giving our top 5 books in the series, a couple of honorable mentions that didn't make the list but are right there outside the top 5, going into our best team up. That's a big part of Brad Thor's writing. Scott finding a team, being a leader, getting that unit to gel and operate together. Scott's ladies, we've talked about that a lot. Recurring theme on the pod. Best traveling heavy pod, best faction book. I think we're going to have fun kind of breaking that down and picking our favorites. I think we'll align on a few, but I think there's going to be a few where, not that we don't see eye to eye. Like I definitely would think yours could be number one, but I just have a slightly different number one. I feel like we're on the same page, but we also have some minor differences on a couple things that we like more than others.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Do we just do top 5 books then? I think we got to get that out of the way.
I don't think that's let's why bury the lead. That's what we're all here for. Let's do it.
And let's start from number 1. I didn't want to say it, but at the same time, can I do a 3, 2, 1 countdown? And we say what we're putting as the top slot, the number 1 Scot Harvath book?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Lions.
Backlash.
Oh,
we did it.
I gotta go Lions, my dude.
Okay.
I got to.
Okay.
And my number 2 is Backlash.
Backlash. Okay.
Those are by and far clearly the 2 best novels in this entire series. One, being the first introduction of this novel and being, thrust right into this, this universe. And the other one coming, how many books in? 19 books in. And being this transformation of this journey, like this, we talked about how there's like sort of arcs of Scott as we've gone along, and this being, the ending of his, obviously the ending of post-ending of his relationship with Reed and Laura, and then, beginning to go on this revenge path. Like that book is so perfect. It's these are clear like 1A and 1B for me.
So true. So
but
true.
I love Lions, man. I love Lions.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
I
so
did.
happy we got to revisit it too. I could listen to that book once a year. It's such a good book.
Revisiting it was a blast. One of the most fun times I've had on this microphone with you was our Lions talk. I pumped out a lot of YouTube shorts for that. We got a lot of content out for that one. It was just such a good, fun conversation. And man, I hear you. I am usually all about the OGs. I think on the Mitch Rapp Pod, I went with Memorial Day as my favorite. Transfer Powers right up there. Term Limits is something special to me. I agree. Those original books or those early books or when an author's hitting their stride early on, and some of the first books I read to get into a series just
Right.
mean a
They mean
lot to
something
me.
special too. Yeah.
Exactly. And that would have been Lions. I bumped it to the 2 slot just because it's so impressive what Brad did in Backlash at a point where he or a lot of other authors could have easily, phoned it in, dialed it in. They have this media empire. Characters been around forever. Write the book of the year. Meet the deadlines. Keep the publishers happy. Keep the thing rolling. This is a cash cow at this point. But he decided to pour himself into one, and it came at the right time. You're entirely right. A Spy Master was clearly winding down the whole Reed Carlton era and the Carlton group, which had been around probably, who knows, 10 plus books, 12 books at that point. And I think Brad knew it's time, it's go time. And I think it jump started the series. It brought us into a modern era. It started the whole Solvay plot, which will come shortly after that. But almost like it broke. It broke from the Carlton group. It kind of did this massive follow up to Spy Master, and it was a banger. And like Brad said from the very beginning, he wanted to write books that new readers could enjoy and old readers could have a field day with, just loving the nuggets and the Easter eggs. And that book did both perfectly. It can bring new readers in, it can satisfy the longtime readers, but in a different way, writing a totally different story. And I'm going to connect it to book number 3. I'll give this away. It brought back a little of that apostle energy.
Yeah.
My book number 3 on my list, Backlash Lions, and the third, The Apostle. And to have those 2 books kind of mirror each other, they each stand out in the series because they were so different and they did something different. They're different times, different eras, different parts of the world Scott's operating in, the Arctic and the Middle East. But at the same time, those books have such a similar, like the juju in them is similar, and it's just fun to go back for that. And when Brad swings for the fences and tries something different, he knocks it out of the park. And so Backlash, I think, just was that rejuvenating factor the series needed, and it was just a phenomenal standalone thriller.
It's you hit the nail on the head. My number 3 is also The Apostle.
Okay.
It's far and above, a love letter to Afghanistan. One of the books that he poured the most research into. I think it stands well with some of these other authors when they try to address that time and period, in that physical location and what it means to, the American military, the people that have served over there. And I think you're right. And the reason it sticks out to me is because, we were going on all these traveling heavy books.
Yes.
And to be grounded and to have Scott. And you're going to find a common theme in my top 5 list, outside of Lions, because outside of Lions has a lot of traveling heavy. But a lot of the books that I tend to gravitate towards tend to be these, character studies and settings almost, because Backlash, Arctic, Russia, we're focused on, some very, we go all over the place, like in Siberia, but we are focused in a singular origin. The same thing in Apostle. And to get that connection with some of these ancillary characters, you're going to find that Apostle's our top 5 book is going to bleed through into some of these other superlatives. It has the ancillary characters that, stick in your mind. I might even say it here, like, I think one of the best villains of this entire series, because of the, I want to say relatability, or like the humanness that Brad gives to them. There's not this overarching, crazy nuclear plague death. It's
Exactly.
a super singular plot.
Save the girl.
Yeah, save the girl. That's it.
She's a hostage. Yeah, get her out at all costs. Yeah. I agree. That is very different than a lot of the Brad Thor plots and motivators of the plot. And it was just refreshing. And it's probably what a lot of operators and veterans can identify with, that they did those missions, had to do those things, maybe even go undercover the way they sneak in. I remember one scene, he had the smells coming back to him of the meats, the roast meats and the campfires. And it was really cool to see that aspect of Scott. He's not always in the sandbox. He's not always, on those ops like that, undercover or embedded with military units in a current conflict. So I agree. It was fun. And I like that it's modern. It's a modern war. And Brad usually, when he deals with the moments, the real life context in the moment, he nails it. When he picks something going on in the world and wants to comment on it, that's when I feel like he's doing his bread and butter, and he uses fiction to actually say something. Brad has something to say in each one of his books. And when he has an opportunity to do that at a momentous moment in history, like the Afghan War, I think that's really powerful. And that's where some of his best writing comes through. You see that with Deadfall.
You're perfectly segueing right into my number 4.
That's your 4. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it as an honorable mention, but it's a very close honorable mention for all these reasons.
Yeah, I think it stuck out to me because, Brad is not afraid to say something, especially when he's passionate about it. And,
yep.
Maybe it just so happens that I also happen to, closely align with how he feels about that situation. And I thought it was very powerful of him to put that book out at the time to, put it, I don't want to say put your reputation on the line, but, you could see how that book might piss some of your readers off, that maybe aren't sympathetic to the situation or whatever. But Brad he never shies away. He never has, and I don't think he ever will. And, just the immersiveness we get, placing us in to the Ukraine in that situation, and we're reading it, like, that was super fresh for me.
It was.
And, kind of eerie in a sense, reading that. And, like, at the same time, I'm worrying into all the news that's coming out about it, watching, like, all the documentaries, 20 Days in Mariupol, like, all that kind of stuff. And to have this be to put the faction in, it just, I don't know, resonates a little bit more with me. So that book, I had to, if I had to pick out of the last, Backlash is relatively recent, but out of the last, like, 5 books, Deadfall far and above all of them.
Sure. Of the most recent books, that one really stands out. And again, it's a book where he had something to say. He had a voice, he had a story to tell, and used his characters to tell the story of real life people that he empathizes with, that he personally has a connection to. Not to mention, you mentioned the Apostle is going to come up later in our superlatives. I also have it as a candidate for a superlative. Deadfall could very easily be up there for best faction books, which is crazy to say because Brad usually, when he digs into history, where you can make connections to, like, I don't know, Palace of Versailles or just something crazy like from the past, and he can put characters in that place and tell the history of it, is usually amazing. But he's doing that in a modern day conflict. I remember the art pieces and this mantle, something a lot of people haven't thought about with this war, but he connected that to cultural identity and how war doesn't just destroy lives and property, it destroys culture and history and identity for people. I remember that. And the orphanage, right, of so many Westerners who want to help and nonprofits who want to help. And what does it actually look like for them to go in and send personnel and be on the ground? Is it helpful? Is it hurting the cause? The villagers, right? Imagine living in a modernized country, and then boom, you got to use CB radios. And remember that network of ham radios that they had? These villagers were all scattered about, like, just haunting stuff. And not to mention the train scene. Dude,
oh yeah, one of the best scenes.
Anytime Brad Thor writes a scene on a train anywhere in the world, could be whatever train it is, you're getting a good scene. And Deadfall's.
Yeah, 100%.
Did we need Zelensky? That felt a little strange.
I'm not saying that these books are perfect, we're but you know. Or what's your number 4?
Yeah, so I dropped Deadfall down, and this is where I'm going to rely on my usual approach, which is oldies but goodies. Number 4, State of the Union. And
That's
I
honorable
know
mention for me.
that's patron Mark Harris's favorite book. I think that topped his list. So I got it up here, number 4. You dropped it to the honorable mention. I could see it. Okay. But when we were going back and recalling the moves that were made in that book, and to make those moves in your third novel, I feel like that's the book where Brad knew he was in it for the long haul. Scot Harvath was here to stay. Gary Lawler was here to stay. He wanted to flesh out his backstory. He wanted to connect it to the Soviet era, East Berlin. Like, this is when I think Brad knew he was going deep with these characters for the long haul. And you get a team up. You know, Gordo's there, Rick Morrell, DeWolf, Carlson, Skip Treywick. I just feel like that book is establishing so much of what Brad's voice was going to be. And Alexandra was in it, the Russian woman who's still around. She came up recently. Helmut Draeger was one of the best villains, if not the best. This one might come up again in superlatives for that reason. Herman the German, the operations at the brothel. This is when the OIAA is created. The final climax and the action in Congressional Cemetery with the bombs in the crypt. The opening. So the opening and the close, because the opening is that guy Leighton getting the activation. He's a deep cover operative who has to go set up the suitcase nukes. And he oh my God, just all those things in your third book were phenomenal. And let's not mention one of our favorite places to go in the Brad Thor series, the Lytica pub. When we get the history of that unit, those guys in Berlin, the original CIA guys who were having to prove their mettle and go cut a snippet of the wire at the top of the Berlin Wall, bring it back to the pub. I just think that book was doing so much that we would come to love as Brad Thor style, and it was doing it early in book number 3. Great story, State of the Union.
And it again, it's like it's right in
right
that
there.
5 spot. I think my number 5 is a personal favorite of mine. I think we kind of talked about this last bit, but you could easily slot State of the Union in there. I think, and again, after talking last week about Path, to follow that up with State of the Union like says a lot. Like to come out with this, to revamp the story, right? Again, like to go hardcore in the Cold War era to establish Gary Lawler as this new player who's going to be around, for a very long time, giving us the villain, giving us these ancillary characters, secondary characters that are super memorable. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I could totally see where you're coming from.
Yep. Same way State of the Union drops to like the 6-7 spot for you is where Deadfall is for me, right outside the top 5. So your number 5, though, you said is personal for you, Takedown.
Yes. Yeah, I had to put Takedown. I don't know.
You
it's
love
something
that book.
like that. Escape from New York, 21 Bridges, like that. I think of Die Hard. I think of, all these movies that I used to watch with my dad that I love, that have that feel of just this lockdown in a location and we gotta fight our way out, type style. And I love the, the team up. This is the beginning of like us getting a new team up every single, what's going to be a pattern going forward where we're going to get new players and Scott's going to have to interact with different players as we go along. I thought like the one of the coolest scenes of this entire series is, when he steps on the pressure plate and Tracy has to, defuse the bomb, and she has all of her baggage and history and, the introduction of the troll, this is like a big player. And I don't know, I just, the noir of this story just sticks with me too.
Completely agree. I think Takedown would have made my list as well. It's clearly top 10, but it's hanging out in that 7, 8, 9-ish spot. I hear you. I think if we reread it, I definitely would put it up there.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like if you reread it, then it catapults to the top.
But now that we haven't read it in a year plus, 2 years, whatever it was, I think it faded a little for me. But yeah, if I reread it, I know I'd be a prisoner of the moment and I'd be all in. I had to put in the 5 spot though. I wanted to find one that really was character heavy or that played an important role, kind of the way I picked State of the Union as Brad establishing an early voice. Well, I wanted one that played an important role somewhere in that middle section, and I went with Foreign Influence. I think, again, that was a refresher book. Gary Lawler's time, he kind of disappeared, went to the background. We hadn't heard from him. We're coming off The Apostle. Like, why was Scott in Afghanistan on this one solo mission? Like, this is very different. Where does he go next? And Reed Carlton comes in, and the Carlton group's a thing, and we had to bring the troll in. I just think that was the Carlton group was like this really nice vehicle to keep the series alive and give it that little injection that it needed. And it did it in a really smart way. You had so much going on in that book where it opens with the Inner Mongolia stuff, like we need some intelligence apparatus finding out what the Chinese are secretly doing, but we don't come back to it. It's kind of like a nice little deep plant. There's a Rome bus explosion, and the troll was linked to that, and Carlton's on it, so that's why he thinks the troll is a bad guy, because somehow he was involved in that Rome bombing, but he knew the weapons dealers, so he was able to give us the hints to find the people who did it, because he was actually able to track the weapons dealers who were responsible for it. That Padre Peo scene, meeting him in Basque Country is just, it's one of those things that could be forgotten about the Scot Harvath series. Because it's like, oh, who's the most important? Gary Lawler, Nicholas, Reed Carlton. Let's put Padre Peo up there. He came in only maybe 3 books, but when he's in, he is in, and he is a power. He's almost, I think, up there in the Herman the German and Bullet Bob tier. I think like co-characters that are like B+, because like your A-list characters are, you know who they are. So I think that the B list, but that doesn't sound right to call these guys B list because they're so great. They're like the A2, like you said, the 1A, 2A. This is like the 1B or 2A. Herman the German, Bullet Bob, and Padre Peo. I think those 3 guys are like fighting for that next best character spot. So his introduction is here. The Athena ladies are introduced here. So
true.
There's another plant. Gretchen Catesy, Nikki Rodriguez. I'd imagine Sloane Ashby. I can't remember exactly if she's mentioned at this point. It's possible. But a lot of the Athena ladies are there on the Amsterdam op. And finally, Robert Ashford. If you're talking about another character, he's almost like the middle Brad, Rick Morrell. Rick Morrell was the Rick the Prick of the first act of Brad's books. In the second act of these books, the second middle section, I feel like Robert Ashford is your guy. You love to hate him because he's a bad guy, and when you hear about his turn, and that's also a little cliffhanger at the end, which takes you into the next book with Sean Chase undercover. Foreign Influence, I think, was a lot of fun and very important for the series.
Yeah, no, it's you're right for having to go back and like in that middle section. And like you said, it's, the introduction of the Carlton group and a reset. We're going to move past the OIIA, and we're moving Scott into a whole new environment and place that he can play in, and just to be able to unravel all of this new information that we're getting. That's going to reestablish this universe as like where Brad wants to take it the next 10 plus books. That's a good call. Foreign Influence, kind of.
Yeah, I don't think I really had it that high.
Should
it
not
was
be
a sleeper.
Forgotten.
Correct. Yeah, it was a sleeper. It kind of snuck its way up. Now, the ones that it just eked out, besides the ones we talked about, I think Code of Conduct is also hanging out right there.
I was going to say that too.
Another sleeper. That's an honorable mention. That's an 8, 9, 10 slot for sure.
And for me, I also had Blacklist. I really liked Blacklist. I like this idea of, you get the spy who gets burned and he has to, claw his way back. You're constantly looking over your back. You don't know who to trust, who to, who's your friend, who's your foe. You're out there on your own. You get some really great interactions, really bringing Nicholas in, seeing him operate in this system. Obviously we get the introduction of Nino, who's going to play a role in his story arc, going forward. we get some old school, Carlton with some of his friends, like this
Tommy
scene,
Banks.
like seeing the spies act like spies.
Yes,
I think
for
that's
sure.
some of the spy work when we get that in these novels. It's great to see. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Blacklist to me is another one of those middle books, like around Foreign Influence that may be forgotten, but should not, like slept on, but should not be forgotten.
It has third option vibes. You're
Sure.
talking about
Yeah,
spies
yeah,
being
yeah.
spies. It almost, and getting burned and whatnot. It almost feels like third option from the Mitch Rapp series. Those books are very similar to me. Another one that we had a lot of fun reading it that nearly sneaks into, maybe not the top 5, but nearly hanging around that top 10, just because it was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, the ending let us down. Use of Force could have made it.
Use of Force was good.
Use of Force had some traveling heavy for a purpose that was really, really entertaining. And if it didn't have that Rome letdown in the end where we thought it was going to be this climactic action piece in Rome and that it just died out, and Deborah Lovett, the CIA contact there, Argento, of course, the Italian, I just feel like that should get an honorable mention for just being a fun ride. The nightclub scenes.
I think I also have to say Near Dark.
Ooh.
Like we didn't quite give it the best score when we ranked it, because I think it has some flaws. But to me, I think Near Dark has to be in the top 10 because of its similarities to The Apostle, to a Takedown, where you're in this whole one environment and you're just being fully placed there, and then like coming out of Backlash and like having to follow that up. I think like that book, just does something for me. I don't know.
I think coming out of Backlash, you're right. That's really hard. And let's give credit to the Mont Saint Michel scene at the end.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Of course. Yeah, probably somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. If we're going to go down to that section of books, I think Rising Tiger deserves its due there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of the most recent books outside of Deadfall that really hit for me like that middle of the pack or better. But I think Rising Tiger deserves it. I think it's right behind Deadfall in terms of the more recent books. And it is almost a one-off. It's almost a side story adventure where he's going off with VJ and Asha. But they were a really good team up. Like for modern day Brad, where we haven't got a random team up in a while, right? We've gotten his usual crew lately. He had to do a random team up. He had to go to unfamiliar territory, find a fixer, find a contact, get in with them. And he did. And it fit like a glove. And I think that was just a fun book.
Does Spymaster crack your top 10?
Yeah, Spymaster's hanging out there. But what I realized when we read it was so much of what was in Spymaster, or I was thinking of Backlash.
Sure.
I just put them together. Backlash Part 1, sure. Backlash Part 1 is definitely up there for me.
Yeah, no, that's, to me, like, I guess I associated because it's,
Same, exactly.
This dual arc
that gets Brad to the
I had
Russians,
associated them together, but in actuality, the book I like better is Backlash.
Exactly.
Sort of the reaction to us, like when rereading the Spymaster for this novel, for the series. I don't want to say it let me down, but it's an important book. We don't get a Backlash without Spymaster. So
yeah, if you had a villain like who you didn't know was a villain, the Polish guy, Matterhorn. Yeah, exactly. Like that's one of the coolest spy villain stories. Like deep mole, undercover mole, and then how Reed Carlton knew about it, and what's her name did too. Lydia Ryan. Lydia Ryan was really playing him in those conversations, but we, the audience, didn't know that. Like, awesome move. So yeah, I think Spymaster was doing. If we pick Spymaster apart, there were some incredible things in there. Probably could be up on the superlative, list as well for a couple of categories. But it's probably at that 10 spot-ish, 10, 12. One reason is because when they're on the ground, hiding out in a car wash, just taking naps, and then a really awkward scene they bungle hiding behind some wooden pallets as the cops show up or some bystanders come by. It was interesting.
The end of that book races like to the end, like too fast,
Yeah. Yeah, going across that lake too, that extract. Oh, you know what? And maybe we should just get to the superlatives because I'm thinking action sequences. What book opened with the Burning Man Festival? Was it Use of Force? That was a fun scene. Yeah, it's Use of Force. So again, I said Use of Force was just a fun book. Scenes like that were incredible.
Laptop of Doom. Yeah.
Yup, exactly.
Well, we definitely know what the bottom books are, right?
Yeah. Do we need to get into it?
No, we don't.
Hit an order. Move on.
Let's get into some of these superlatives.
Yeah, what do you
All
want
right.
to start with here?
Well, I think you already kicked it off with best action sequence.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
My problem is, am I a prisoner of the moment if I keep coming back to Lions of Lucerne? Or is it the fact that opening on the slopes and ending with the mountains of Switzerland were just so cool? Even 24 books later, I'm coming back to those two. Is that a problem? Am I a prisoner of the moment for that?
No, I think like there's a reason that it's in our top 5.
That good.
Yeah, that's really tough. We were going through the series, like, revisiting Path of the Assassin, right? And seeing how there's not one, but 2 sequences from that novel that are amazing action sequences.
Yep. They could both be up there. The escape from the Apostle in that Humvee,
up
the
very
icy
end.
mountains, with calling in the AC-130 gunship, that could be up there.
The State of the Union, you already mentioned the sort of the culmination at the
Congressional,
or like down in those the interaction in what he has to pull like a cigarette thing and to get Gary, because Gary Lawler's being like interrogated, right?
Right.
What are some other good ones? Oh, the in Brazil when they're down like on that island
with the troll, yeah, and they save each other. That's a good one. Oh, in the Congo, in the woods, near that clinic, that burned out clinic. That was really thrilling stuff.
We said the train scene in Deadfall.
Train scene in Deadfall is up there. I think the Burning Man attacks too. I remember that was one of the edge of my seat of like, oh, they got the guy. Oh my God, there's a bunch of guys. And there were like all these suicide bombers and somewhere in the children's area. And, that was wild. That was edge of your seat stuff. I would say Use of Force again. One of the two, I don't remember which, but one of the nightclub scenes that then makes them hightail it to Rome because they get the intel, like going with the mafia out there. Oh, and I think, is it Deborah Lovett, the CIA woman, when she's taken in Use of Force and like the villain takes her to like that tent, that cabana on the beach and is raping her, or about to, is attempting to? That was thrilling stuff.
You mentioned this earlier, but the Amsterdam's op, like with the Athena ladies, there's a bunch of action sequences in the Athena project.
Sure. Wild book.
It's on a whole whole class of its own.
Yeah, Near Dark, Mont Saint Michel. We were just talking about that could be up there.
Yes.
All right, where do you land though? Where do you land?
Oh, the opening to Rising Tiger with the attack on
sure.
in India, right? Right
the
at the
Indian force in
Indian
Kashmir, yeah. Has nothing to do with Scott though, and doesn't come back in the rest of the book, which I thought was a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah,
that's cool. That was a cool character.
Why can't I remember anything from Shadow of Doubt?
Shadow of Doubt, I'm blanking. I do remember the kill with the ice pick in the apartment. That guy who has all the intel and is willing to talk, and he wants to give it to the Americans about how France is the government's corrupted. Oh, I don't know if you can call this action. It's not an action sequence. It's more of a cliffhanger, but the dog bullet being left at Bishopsgate and Tracy getting shot. That was one of the biggest oh shit moments.
A lot of good action sequences in Blowback.
We're probably missing quite a few, so be
Yeah,
sure to
no,
hit
we
us
definitely
up,
are.
comment at us if you have a different one. But I'm going trip down memory lane. I remember reading it so viscerally, being like, this author has just done enough for me to be a lifetime fan in the first like 5 chapters of Lions of Lucerne. I got to go with the skiing, the presidential detail, Amanda Rutledge, the President Rutledge on the slopes. I just think the skiing scene in Lions of Lucerne, call me a prisoner of the moment, but it's still number one, even after reliving all these others.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too. Just to give love to a novel that we don't
He's
love
going
that
path.
much, I think I'm going to give it to
The
Path.
plane.
Like it's that plane scene.
The plane takedown, yeah.
Is crazy.
Dude, can you imagine if that was Claudia Mueller?
Yeah.
For some reason, if that was Claudia Mueller on that plane, and she had to do all those things, and then Scott drops in, and the Egyptians fuck all, and the Rick Morel's a pussy, and all that happens, and it's Claudia Mueller doing that shit on the plane, meeting up with Scott. I would have stood up. I would have stood up and applauded. Just that would have been amazing. The fact that it's Meg Cassidy just grinds my gears, but great choice. Great pick. Great pick.
All right, let's go to best villain.
Can we relive these just a little? In our recap episode, I feel like we hit on a lot of stuff. How much did we get into villains? Or is that because are there that many memorable ones that go across books, like a 2, 3, 4 book villain?
There's not
There's
really.
not.
There's never been an Aziz or
Right.
even like a Hank Clark, like that kind of villain, or even some of the villains that we've gotten in some of these other series we've read. I think, to me, obviously all these books like have a quote unquote villain.
Yes.
The 3 that really stick out to me are Helmut Dreger,
yes,
from State of the Union. The brother, the Russian, along with Masood in The Apostle.
Sure, yeah.
And then you gotta throw in the Robert Ashford duo with the James Standing guy. I think that's where Brad was trying to do this ultimate villain character, to have him, play a role in both those novels with like these, they have this huge, they have that map with all the different different kinds of attacks and that
and then
kind of stuff.
endowed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I think you're right. The James Standing is probably like the biggest attempt at making, the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain, pulling the strings for long, extended periods of time. And Robert Ashford being a pawn. But it's only 2 books, yeah. And if I just ask you, we're coming off of the 23rd book, we're getting ready for the 24th book, and I go, James Standing. Like, it doesn't excite the emotions if I were to go Hank Clark.
Sure.
Aziz, yeah, exactly. But yeah, pretty good. I think Gerhard Miner, again, I'm going back to Lions. Gerhard Miner's got to be in the picture.
Pierre Damien.
Oh,
the eugenicist.
The guy with the Malthusian doctrine, the food supply, lower population. He was scary too, wasn't he? What was the book with like IBM and the supercomputers? They were talking about the history of that. I remember there was one villain who was using a techie guy to get everything done for him. I think that might have been Pierre Damien in that book.
It was Code of Conduct.
It could have been. Tursinov? Tajik and use of force.
Yep.
If any one of these guys we just mentioned was like a 2-3 book arc villain, they'd be incredible. But it's not Brad's style.
Deadfall, the Wagner Group mercenaries.
True.
And
their
leader.
Very true. Oh, Near Dark, the Irishman. Paul something.
See, that's the problem with these characters is that, like you said, you say their name, and probably the only one that like truly sticks out is Gerhard Miner.
Robert Ashford, maybe? as a traitor.
Robert Ashford, Gerhard Miner, and Helmut Drager.
I think that's it. And if Helmut Drager came up again, like,
Yeah.
I know State of the Union happened, but like now that we've got Gary Lawler back, let's dig into like if we come back in the next, I would say the next 5 books. If he doesn't do it then, he's never going to do it. But if in the next 5 books, Brad Thor brings back a Gary Lawler in the early days, the way Jack Carr is doing that with James Reese's father, and the way Don Bentley's doing that in the Mitch Rapp series, I really think Brad had an opportunity in the recent stretch of books, but still has the opportunity to do the backstory on Gary Lawler. Now, does it need to be its own book? Maybe, because if you stuff it into a book, it doesn't work. Because Black Ice had a stuffed in chapter about Peaches and Reed Carlton, what he was doing back in the day, and it just felt out of place. So it almost deserved its own book. Go ahead and do that for Gary Lawler and Helmut Drager. Bring in his wife and what happened with them. If Helmut Drager was mentioned even just once or twice sometime later in the series, I think it would have elevated him greatly. But he's just gone.
Yeah, that's the problem with the villains in this entire series.
Yeah.
There's not, some of the other ones that I think, I'm blanking on their names, but Halim and the
sure.
brother.
Blacklist or
No, I'm thinking from Mitch Rapp, like where they were
the 2 brothers driving
the 2
in
books
Pursuit of Honor. Yeah.
And they were the main villains in the previous book with
they
Extreme
masterminded the attack in Extreme Measures, exactly. But we've also criticized like those dangling ends of a book wraps up, it was a great story, but the villain got away, and just in the next book you go hunt him and kill him and it's over. That's not really a 2-book villain. Those guys drove the plot of the first book, masterminding it. And then in the second book, the entire book was about chasing him down, culminating in action to get the one at the Lincoln Memorial with Mike Nash. So like that was well done. Where I wouldn't want one of these villains in a Scot Harvath book just to pop up and have their story wrapped up. And I don't think Brad wants to do that either, because he likes standalones. I think he likes the idea of you could pick it up, story's done, completed, let's move on, give Scott the next adventure in the next book. So I think, I don't know how he would do it. It made more sense in the Mitch Rapp series to do it. It became common in that series. I don't know how you would do it in this one, but it does feel like it's missing. You do feel that gap.
All right, well, we got to pick one. So out of those, who would you pick?
I can't say Gerhard Miner because I've been.
You're right. How about once you use a book, you can't go back to it?
It's not a bad idea. But do you miss out on something there?
Probably, but it's our own exercise.
Yeah. You know what? It was Robert Ashford. Robert Ashford.
I'm going to go James Standing, which is, they're kind of together, but I think that's Brad's biggest, like, trying to have this 2-book arc of this, big bad character. So yeah, that's a good one.
And I think I'll give the honorable mention to Pierre Damien, because when you pulled that name, I was like, oh, I got the creeps. Oh, that scene where the woman who he's dating but is actually a Mossad agent being run by Mordecai. Remember Mordecai? He's a cool character. That was pretty thrilling when Pierre Damien, the creep, found out about her. Like, that's like, oh my God. Speaking of actually Mordecai, makes me think Ari Schoen, we can count him as villain.
True.
He's probably in that second tier list of good villains.
Also, Adar and Nadal.
True.
Like the whole Nadal family.
Hashim Nadal. Yeah, then you know what? Yeah, that's probably the closest you can come to like a reoccurring villain, because the Abu Nidal organization was listed a few times in the earlier books. Yeah, true. You know what? We just talked about something that's not our favorite in the series. Let's go to something that is a hallmark of the series. Team ups. What was your favorite get the crew together moment in Scott's team ups? There's a couple here.
My first instinct is to go Takedown, and to have that team up, have these vets. They're all in a group. sort of like this cast of unlikely characters. I could also go with the Apostle, Baba G.
That's mine.
But I think I want to put him as like one of the best co-characters.
Fair. I don't know. I'm going Apostle with Hoyt, Baba G, Fontaine. I think when those guys were having the banter, because that's another thing Brad does very well, is the banter between the guys. I just think it's done on another level in that book because you had to do it in the manner and the style by which veterans and operators who've seen the theater of war would recognize and identify with and feel authentic. And I think that book just made it so authentic. They were absolutely hysterical. They had their quirks. I bet those guys in particular remind so many veterans of the Afghanistan war exactly what it was like to be there, to be downrange, and just have that buddy lighten the mood for you and give you the will to fight and the reason to live. So I think Apostle was a special team up. Take down Great Pull. Yeah. Same thing, talking about veterans and real issues. Yeah. The PTSD group, for sure. For sure. That's a good one. Honorable mention. Code of Conduct had a decent crew out there in the jungle. They were kind of random. Remember Ash, Mick, Simon?
Oh yeah,
Eddie?
like those other like players that we never see again. Yeah.
Never. Dr. Decker, Dr. Jess Decker. You know what? While we're on team ups, another thing that Scott does well is bring in the local fixer. I mentioned that for Rising Tiger with VJ. But Code of Conduct, you get that guy Jumbo.
Yes.
He's like one of the locals. And every time those guys are like heroes. They come up.
Within the Apostle, what's the Baba G's like friend?
Right. The one who gets them undercover in that like rations. Or they're bringing like cooking supplies to the Taliban. And he drives a truck to the Taliban every week. Yeah. And he hides them out. Yep. Oh, what was his name? There's Baba G's contact on the inside. I don't know, but that guy was really good. Baba G, man, great character.
So while we're doing it, it's kind of similar with Team Up. Go character. Now, we could go A, B, C tier. Mm-hmm. A for me.
Yeah, Nicholas. Okay.
Nicholas is clear, far and above. I think the best thing that Gary and like a Reed are like a close second, but yeah. Nicholas is by far the best. I think so. For B character, I think I have to go like Sloan or Chase. Like, and they've become this like team up that Scott has had for quite a few books now. I love, you can include any of the other guys that are there with them. I think, that whole Carlton group that he brings in multiple times, great.
Sure.
But like for me, I got to go like the C character, the ones that are only in one book. But Baba G to me was just amazing.
Yeah, I think if you're going C level, it's a Baba G, or another one pushing is that Italian guy I just mentioned, Argento. Yeah. That might even be D level. I'm not sure. I got to go back to B level though for a minute. Great pull. I think you have to put Herman the German and Bullet Bob.
Herman the German.
Yes. I think those two are equally the best at B level. I just think Herman the German and Bullet Bob are just so clearly the best B level characters equally. You can't choose between them.
Yeah.
So that had to be my pull there. Now I will say a different level of B character. You might consider them C character, but I think I'm going to say they're like B minus or B characters. The team up between Bob McGee and Lydia Ryan.
Yeah.
I think of them as one.
Lydia Ryan and Bob McGee are very good characters.
Granted, I hear you giving that spot to Sloan Ashby, and you're well within your rights. I think that's a fine move, especially if we're talking that like mid Brad Thor era. But if we're talking the mid Brad Thor era to the modern Brad Thor era, kind of like the end of the Reed Carlton era, that Spy Master kind of conclusion, Lydia Ryan was great. was so great. And she was built up to be the character who would lead the Carlton group. She could have become CIA director, and she turned it down so she can operate, gave Bob McGee that position. I think Lydia Ryan came on strong, grew, had an opportunity to take on 2 massive roles, had the whole future ahead of her, and then Spy Master, when you take her out, I just feel like I thought she was going to be the next 10 books, type character. She would be the next Reed Carlton. And when she's taken out, I'm like, whoa, things are different now. So, man, you know what? We went this whole podcast and haven't said Laura yet. But
well, I mean, I think we're saving it for this, Scots ladies.
Scots
and
ladies.
I think to me, we kind of crowned her a couple books ago, but it's clearly Solvay.
It's Solvay.
Yeah, it's clearly Solvay. And I think a close number 2 is the First Lady, Claudia, one that I felt was taken too soon. Not like killed, but like just written off, before she needed to be. Comes back, in a couple other books, plays a role in helping Scott out.
Tracy in the 3rd spot.
Yeah. Tracy's very good.
Yeah.
So you will put Tracy ahead of Laura?
I would.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually don't get much Laura. She's in
He
one
loves
book.
Tracy. It's true. We don't see a lot of her. She's actually doing something in one book, and then she's showing up or mentioned in a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
I remembered her playing such a more forward-centric role. And then as we reread these books, I was like, where is she? When is she going to do something? Instead, she was just a counterpoint for him to bring up every once in a while of, oh, I'm going to the next mission. Oh, wait, I have this girl back home I want to see, And that was just stuffed into too many books, just running out of ideas of where to place her. When can she come in? She showed up at a few points. I guess it's code of conduct. When who does he send up to Alaska?
It's Laura.
It is Laura. Oh, and Marco, of course. Oh, Marco, great D-level, E-level character. They get their pancakes. No, I think Laura had so much more potential, but I have to put her down in the fourth spot on Scott's Ladies, below Tracy, above Meg Cassidy.
Oh yeah, Meg's at the bottom.
Now, who's the one in the Athena group that he has a?
Gretchen Casey.
She could be up there. She's just so minor.
Yeah.
Actually,
she's the lead character of the Athena project.
Do you put her above Meg?
Yeah.
100%. Do you put her above? And they did have that book where they actually got together. They had a few flings. They had a few hotel room moments. Do you put her above Tracy? No. So that really gets Riley to the 5 spot. Oh, Riley's great.
I think I still put Gretchen above Riley.
They had a fling though.
I
think he's just interested in her, but then there's
a lot of characters. I mean, Alexandra is one of those characters.
But then there's like professional respect characters: Alessandra, Sloane Ashby, Lydia Ryan. Like they're never.
Oh, who's the one who's in Spy Master? Who she's
the NATO Monica Yashinsky. Yashinsky, yeah.
Holiday
Dr.
Hayes.
Jess Decker. Oh, dude, Holiday Hayes is right up there on that list. I want to see her. I want to see her in a big role. Her and Deborah Lovett coming back.
Yeah.
I think the two of them could be a CIA tag team duo for the long haul. They could be what Lydia Ryan never got to be.
Lydia Ryan. No, not a love interest, but a good female character.
No, we're talking about those characters that are respected, like the Alessandra category, Sloane Ashby category. Yeah. Although Sloane is special in that category. Yeah. She's literally like Scott's sister.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Has she been around recently?
She was in Shadow of Doubt.
Was she?
Yeah.
I forget Shadow of Doubt. We should have reread that one.
Yeah, we should have.
The most recent one. We might have to for Edge of Honor, or at least when we do Edge of Honor over on our other feed, the Thriller podcast, in a few months. Maybe we should reference Shadow of Doubt, recall it, go back to it for a little, just to open up that episode before Edge of Honor comes.
I got 2 more here that we got to cover. We got to cover Best Traveling Heavy, and it wouldn't be a Mitch Rapp Pod without the best cover. So we'll save that for last.
Got to do covers. Traveling
Heavy.
A lot of options here, my man. Now, are we going with the book that does the most traveling heavy, like stuffs it all in? Because sometimes the quality is sacrificed. I feel like we can't go with something like a Black Ice because it's just really like one place. I feel like it has to be a book that's balanced. It does a lot of traveling. It has all its, world country hopping, but at the same time, it gives respect to all of those places.
Yes, exactly.
It's something like we said Path of the Assassin does. I think that's a
Right.
candidate. I don't think it's the one, but I think it could be a candidate for this. Whereas we can't say Takedown, we can't say The Apostle, we can't say Deadfall because they're all single stories.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's Foreign Influence for me.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones where we go a lot of places, but it's executed very well. I mean, you could easily say Lions of Lucerne.
Sure.
Too.
Sure.
But if that's taken off the board, I think I'm gravitating towards Foreign Influence.
Yeah, Foreign Influence is definitely up there. There's one I'm looking for.
We're in London. We're in France. We're in Basque Country. We're in, we pop over to Rome. We start in Inner Mongolia. We go to Amsterdam.
Aha. You know which one I was looking for? The First Commandment. That's in Brazil, the island in Brazil, where we meet Nicholas. Valhalla with Tim Finney, the Sargasso facility. There's an opening scene in Gitmo with Juba the sniper being taken out. There's Egypt and the plagues, the bucket of blood bar in Virginia, Lake Geneva with the Meg Cassidy boat scene, the troll
We're
in Jerusalem kills Ari Shone. Is that too much going on? But each of those was pretty memorable. The scene on Lake Geneva, I could picture that with the boat chase
With the
and
boat.
the thing blows
That's another
up.
good action sequence.
That's a good action. Then they're under the dock. That was a good action sequence, but I remember it felt a little weird and out of place. It's a great sequence, but where it was in the book, I remember having an issue with.
It also plays a role with Adara and like the Abudinal probably is the organization is probably the biggest
Best villain.
Yeah.
I remember it was nice that we got a conclusion of that in the First Commandment, but it was weird how it was tied into the troll. And is that the book in the hotel where Nicholas is riding the dogs? And he just busts out the hotel riding the dogs. Oh, because one of them gets shot. And that's when Scott saves him. Yeah. That was wild. Oh, because I think they're chasing Adar Nadal in that scene. Or something. But I remember, yes, it was pretty cool. The Abu Nadal organization family is such an ongoing villain. It's a little strange how it was tied up with the troll and Ari Shone's grandson. I guess it worked. All right, I think I'll go with that one. Is it time?
Do it.
Is it
We
time?
gotta do it. Best covers.
Shall we talk covers? If you all want to see the covers in one spot, thrillerpod.com. At the top, you'll see a drop-down list, 3 dots. Click on Thriller Pod Scorecard. Nope, that's if you want to see our scores. Click on Brad Thor, and you'll see all the Brad Thor covers from every one of our episodes. There's a lot. Dude, how many are there? There's a lot to choose from. And each of these is only the first thumbnail. There were a few books with publications that took 2 full pages, and I could only put 1 thumbnail. So there are some books that have double the amount of covers than we're able to post here. Thrillerpod.com. Woof. Okay, can we say maybe best cover overall, but then also like best A cover, best hardcover, best paperback, best international? We could break that down. Do you think?
I know for me what my favorite A cover is.
You have your favorite hardcover. Okay. Can I try to guess?
Sure, go for it.
I'm trying to remember which ones you liked. Oh, I think I know. Oh, damn. Okay, I'm between a few. Oh, shoot. Just saw a few more. All right. If I remember you liked Foreign Agent.
Foreign Agent.
The red AK.
That's a good one. But not it.
You like Near Dark recently, but I don't think you'd go. Okay, Deadfall.
No, that's a close second. It's Spy
Damn,
Master
dude.
though.
That was. Oh my god.
I love that plane.
I'm not kidding. That's my next guess.
Mm.
Dude, that's sweet.
This Spy Master to me is one of the best covers we have.
Dude, you picked 3 good ones. And I would say for the most part, all those are judge a cover by the book for sure. I think a really good judge a cover by the book and Traveling Heavy is Black Ice. I mean, it just screams nighttime Arctic covert operations. But I think one of the coolest books that I've ever held in terms of a hardback is the full black cover.
Ooh, full black is very cool.
I just think that one is sick. And usually I have a standing man problem, but the way it's silhouetted is pretty dope. I remember in person that book looks so good. First Commandment almost wins the most likely to be a Mitch Rapp cover award.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's your favorite best use of like the new Brad's new covers?
The symbols.
Yeah.
The new paperback releases. We talked about a few good ones. Oh, I just looked back to
Edge of Honor.
Let me go find that. Oh, the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I just looked back at The Apostle, though.
The Apostle.
That one's
first
sick.
Apostle.
The Apostle new cover is really nice.
Love Takedown.
Takedown's a great
With the
one.
star, you get the map of New York City.
Great one. Spy Master's an option when we found out about that Lithuanian cross.
The Lithuanian cross.
That was pretty cool.
Dead Falls. The sword there. That's sick. Rising. Oh, I remember holding Rising Tiger.
Oh, that was cool. Cover A.
And it's like edged, like ridged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was the one where you found like a Norse symbology of some sort? It was like a Norse symbol.
That's Black Ice.
Oh, Black Ice.
Yeah.
What was that symbol again?
The triple diamond or triple triangle into each other is like a Norse thing that they would put on something.
Dude, okay, that one might be my favorite cover. See, when you figured that out, dude, the Valknut is a symbol from Norse mythology consisting of 3 interlocking triangles, often associated with Odin, god of death and war, representing the transition between life and death. It's interpreted as a symbol of the afterlife and the warrior spirit and Odin's power over life and death. A modern Norwegian term meaning not of those fallen in battle.
Yeah,
the Valknut. Dude, that's the biggest hit. That's it.
That's the best use of a symbol.
That's the best use of a symbol. When you found that out, I was like 5 out of 5. That's phenomenal. Valknut. Unfortunately, like all other symbols, it's been co-opted by a certain group of white supremacists.
Yep.
Linking their ancestry to ancient Scandinavians, their willingness to die for Odin. There's a couple of those wacky fringe groups that do Norse mythology kind of, dedications, and they're wild. Everyone co-ops everything.
Symbology.
A symbol can't just be a symbol anymore.
No, I think like the first part of Angels and Demons or Da Vinci Code, like he's giving a lecture about, symbols of what are being used now. Like you could go back in the past and find like how it was used in the opposite set, or like to mean the opposite thing.
I mean, just look at what the pattern that is now identified as the Nazi swastika is actually an ancient Hindu symbol that was very important on graves. I think it was about the afterlife as well. So, and I think it was actually about rebirth, and it was about life, and it was a positive symbol in many, many ancient societies. But anyway, yep. All right. I mean,
a lot of good covers here.
Any other covers stand out?
There's so many. I love, like we mentioned, Path of the Assassin, State of the Union.
Path of the Assassin cover
the
D.
blowback cover. While the book's not great, I
Sure.
love a good use of the radiation symbol.
Sure. Code of Conduct, I remember something about that as well.
Yeah. Blacklist. Well, we get the with the parachute guys coming in, because that's from like the is that the extra scene from? No, that was Hidden Order. There was definitely a parachute scene in Blacklist, wasn't there?
No, I think there was. Yeah. I remember saying that one got Judge a Cover by the Book correct.
Yeah.
Shout out to, while we're on, I'm just looking at Full Black and Blacklist. I don't know what language it is. It's something from the Indian subcontinent, South Asia. Those covers, all in Bengali or whatever that is, are so sick. Blacklist cover F, cover D, Full Black cover F. There were a few of those in that language that just hit and hit hard.
So many covers. This Scott's had way more covers than what Mitch had.
Yeah, I think maybe just being more modern, more chances to be translated and published. Yeah. Maybe we didn't even go as deep and find them all for Mitch Rapp also. Like American Assassin had 1 million covers probably because of the movie.
Because of the movie, yeah.
But a lot of the others did not, you're right.
All right. That's the Scot Harvath Podcast. What do you think? Do you feel good?
I feel really good, but I have to say, one way to sign off this podcast is by sharing my gratitude in the form of a limerick.
Give it to us, baby.
To the end of Brad's series we've come, but our time with Scott is not done. Edge of honor this summer. It won't be a bummer. To you, Mr. Thor, well done.
Congrats.
It's been fun.
Nice.
It's been a trip, Chris. It's been an honor and a pleasure doing this with one of my best friends in the entire world.
It's been great. I love it. Now, to the next iteration of this podcast. Could you imagine? Would we really keep doing this 5 years? We've been doing this for April. We started in April 2020.
5 years and approaching 300 episodes. We are somewhere in the mid 200s. That is insane. If I can only log the amount of hours, not only recording, but I would say quadruple the amount of hours editing this thing, editing and posting and building our socials. Unbelievable. But I'll be honest, we would not have kept this going if it weren't for our patrons. They have made this entire thing possible. You know who you are. We have to shout out Sherry. She is just our queen. She is the leader of the pod. She is the bright energy and everything you need, the enthusiasm, the class that we need in our book club to keep it going. So if you want to join the No Limits Thriller Podcast book club, we pick a book of the season. We usually do a few hangouts quarterly throughout the year. We pick a book. We hang out together digitally on Zoom. We have an ongoing group chat going. We love talking thrillers constantly every day. It's one of the highlights of my day to check my phone and see the group chat blowing up. A lot of hot takes. You get a lot of rants and hot takes over there from me. So if you want to join up, check out thrillerpod.com. Click on Patreon. We'd love to have you join the book club, the Thriller Pod book club. And we wouldn't have been able to do this without you. So the Mitch Rapp Pod, the Scot Harvath Pod, the Thriller Pod is all thanks to our patrons.
Yep. Including our special operator, Jason C., our special agents, Ben, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Peggy, Mark, and Chris. Thank you guys very much for being there, being our friends, listening to it. These two schmucks getting on here every Tuesday and recording. So yeah, big thank you to you guys. And how do I end this, Mike? What do I got to do?
Just like Brad.
Just like Brad.
Be Brad.
Brad.